Welcome to the Clean Library Podcast, where content meets conscience. We believe there are millions of you readers out there desperately searching for a better way to find clean content. Each episode, we will introduce you to a new author of clean books, giving you, your family, and your friends clean options. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Clean Library Podcast. We're so glad that you're here today for special guest, our author, Sylvia Greif. Sylvia is the Swiss author of the children's book, Lester's Planet, and the action-adventure trilogy for YA that begins with her latest release, Ella Green and the Kingdom of Aboud. She is also a chart-topping singer-songwriter and animal advocate. Greif, a nature lover, is at her happiest in the great outdoors, playing sports, skiing, swimming, horseback riding, and hiking the Himalayas.
Yes.
In August of 23, she climbed up Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yes.
Her other passion alongside writing is music and traveling. She has globetrotted around the world and is fluent in 5 languages. For Sylvia, moments of inspiration are often found in unexpected places. She does her best writing on board a train and in the quiet of early mornings in her home, surrounded by her 3 dogs. Her passion for the environment and wildlife started when she was a child. She grew up surrounded by animals, and as an animal advocate, she works alongside nonprofit organizations to protect animal rights and fight against animal cruelty. She's currently working on the second sequel of Ella Green and the Kingdom of Aboud. Welcome, Sylvia. We're so grateful to have you on today.
Hello, Marcus. How are you?
I'm great. So before we jump in to hear all about your books and your story, let's read your 2 truths and a lie, and then we'll see if we can figure them out. All right. Number 1, I am working on a documentary. Number 2, I don't like the beach. And number 3, I prefer tea over coffee.
Okay, so
all right. So we'll see if we can figure those out as we're talking today.
Yes.
So Sylvia, how did you get into writing? Like, what started this love of writing?
But I first have to say that I'm dyslexic.
Okay.
Severely, and the first time I wrote a children's book called Lester's Planet, it was about my Chihuahua. It's a true-ish story about him. And I had a friend who's an illustrator, and we decided to write that book. Basically, Lester was a little Chihuahua. He thought he was a lion, had the temper of a lion. And I wrote a few stories about him because he was an amazing little dog. I'm an animal lover. I've been brought up by animals more than by humans, actually. I had wild animals as a kid at home, baby lions.
Wow.
And more. Yeah. And I've always had dogs and all kinds of animals. And so Lester was with me everywhere, recording studios all around the world. I used to have earplugs in his ears in the studio because the music was too loud. And and so I wrote a story about him, which is more or less true. And that started like that. And then the second book, Ella, was during COVID. I was in Switzerland, and as many of us, there wasn't so much to do, as you know.
Right.
And the book is not an autobiography, but having myself lived in boarding schools from a very young age, obviously there is some little things that from me. So I started writing 1 page and 2 pages and 3 pages, and it ended up in a book.
Yeah.
That's it. But I'm a singer more. I'm singing is the same thing. I started quite late in my life. I do my lyrics. I write my own songs. But writing is a real pleasure. But it's very, very hard for me being dyslexic. So it was an issue. Yeah.
So what would you say to someone else who struggles with dyslexia, and how do you find ways to write?
Never be ashamed of who you are, of whatever issues you have. Never. Go for it, And I was very afraid when I wrote my book, because obviously I had to send it to I had to send it, and people had to read it, and I had it edited a zillion times before. I have a friend; she's an English school teacher. She read it a zillion times, and and because I was so afraid that people would laugh or make fun because they were mistakes, because
Yeah.
in my head the numbers and the letters, they just whirl around like that, like in my imagination.
Yeah.
And so I would say just go for it. If you have a dream, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Uh, well, you've got me beat with the animals. I mean, I've got I've got chickens and goats, and we've had
Hey,
pigs and
there
cows,
you
but never anything exotic like lions. I've
are. Yeah.
never done that. I've got a duck that follows me around the yard. He thinks he's
Well, ducks can be very dangerous, They
yeah.
it's-
She thinks she's a dog. She follows me around all day when I'm outside.
But
Just
I heard that geeses, you said it like that, goose, they are very, very, very protective also, and like guard dogs. I like dogs actually. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, but lions, that's crazy.
Well, baby lions, they weren't big.
Yeah,
They weren't that big. They were cubs, but still.
but still, yeah, right. It's still lions. So, in it sounds like your growing up and your experiences have really influenced your books.
Completely, yeah.
Is that
I'm very close to nature also. I don't want to be a preacher because I'm far from that. And I hate being told what to do. I'm a free spirit. I like to go my own way, but I think that we have to be conscious about what's happening in our world.
sure?
And climate change is not only due to humans, it's also when you look billions of years ago, there was a glacier area and all these things. But we are responsible for a lot of things of, the forest being destroyed. When you look at what happens in South America and Brazil and everywhere, of floods like yesterday, no, today or yesterday on my Insta, I saw there's a glacier in Switzerland that just,
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen that.
I saw a picture. Yeah,
Oh my God, the whole village disappeared. It gives me really, and I'm like these giants who've been there for millions of years, because of permafrost, because of climate change, are dying. And I'm not saying it's only our we are not only responsible because of that, but humans destroy a lot of things, animals, the oceans, and I could go on and on and on. So
yeah,
yeah, so I try to advocate for that through my work whenever I do something. I think it's very important with kids also to raise awareness in a certain way because they are the future. To not do all the stupid things we've been doing, for all
right.
these. And I think that if they understand, they can maybe change something, And that's why I try when I write in a certain way to put a little message somewhere. I think it's important.
Yeah, Eh, and it's a YA novel. Is that
Yes,
right?
young adult. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of do the same thing and try to sneak in some life lessons in there, where they're enjoying the story and not realizing they're learning something at the
I
same
think that's the
time.
way to do it because if you force them, they don't want to.
Right,
If they don't
right.
really realize and they learn without really understanding, I mean, understanding, it's like not an obligation, then yeah, it's much easier.
Yeah, I think
Do
that's
you have
smart.
children? Do you have children?
Yeah, I have four adult.
Oh,
They're all adults now, and two grandkids.
okay.
Yeah. So the I have to say that being a grandpa is the best.
Is it?
Yeah,
It's part of it.
yeah, it's pretty fantastic. But so, can you tell us a little bit about the story of Ella Green? You can give us the synopsis.
Yeah. So, as I said, it's not because some people have asked me if it's an autobiography. Because I
Hmm.
was in a boarding school in Switzerland. I was there very young, and obviously I missed my mom. And when I
Yeah,
was when I was alone, I used to dream that I was going in my bed at night, and my bed would bring me in all these different dimensions and worlds, and in the past, in the future. So I started obviously writing. Ella is this young girl who she dislikes grown-ups. It's not that she dislikes them, she doesn't really understand them and they don't understand her.
yeah,
And she sort of lives in her own world. She's kind of a rebel. She questions herself a lot for such a young girl. And she also found out that she was adopted, and so the book starts um, with her finding out her adoption, coming back to the boarding school in Switzerland. And she is actually she lives in her own world, and she actually finds out that she's there to save as adults from destroying our planet. She's the last chance. There's a prophecy, and she starts from Switzerland. It goes to ancient Egypt and to the kingdom of Abud, and they're talking trees and talking rocks and flying fish and all these things. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun writing it.
Huh.
um, and yeah, and now I'm writing the second sequel of the book. I've been doing a lot of things in between. Also, we are working on a documentary. So and I have a podcast also. So it's been a bit complicated to sort of mix everything together. But
Right.
I try to find some time to write. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, and are you still? You said you sing a lot. Are you still writing a lot of songs too?
Yeah, I just sang. I'm here now in Delaware, and I just sang a few days ago with a friend. Yeah, we had a little show, and it was cool. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think when you have that kind of creative mind, there's just so much that you want to do and create, and with the music and books and all different things. Because at least for me, my mind is always just thinking and wanting to do different creative things and learn how to
It's
do things.
nice. It's nice. I think it's nice to be able to do. I mean, sometimes you have to be careful not to sort of be like, I would always say, like an octopus. You go
Right.
too far, you have legs everywhere, and then you don't know where the center is anymore.
Right.
But I think that it's nice when you're creative in any way. Music is great for the soul. I mean, it's a universal message. I also like photography because I think it's a way of you don't need to speak, and
Hmm.
you don't need to say anything. You just take a picture, and then you will see something. You will see something. So everybody will see something different, and that's what I like with that too. So yeah, I think being creative is great, and any message and any thing you can do is a great way of sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So when you're writing, do you plan out your plot
No,
and everything in advance?
nothing. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare because when I started writing, Lester is easy. It's a children's book. There are 30
Yeah.
pages. It's very easy. The story starts in Switzerland, ends in LA, where I actually adopted a dog who's also in the story from a kill shelter. But that was very easy. With Ella, I started having all these crazy ideas, and then I start writing, and then I'm like, oh, so I didn't know really. It's like I go with my imagination. I now, for the, let's say, for the ending for the third book, I have more or less an idea of how I want it to end, but
Yeah.
all from the beginning to the end is like complete mystery, complete craziness, and I don't plan. No, I just go with the flow. Yeah.
Okay, so do do you feel like the characters are speaking to you as you're writing, or how does your imagination work?
I like what I've been told. It's very difficult to talk about your own work because you're not so
Right.
objective, right?
Right, right, right.
What I try to do, and what a lot of people have told me, is that they see it's like if I'm writing a script, like for a movie,
Hmm.
and I need to, when I write, like, I try to imagine the characters and how they move, how they talk. I see them in my head, and I see the scene as if I was a producer on a movie set. And it's
Okay.
not something I. It's just something like that I do. I don't know if it's good or bad,
Yeah.
but yeah, I try also to take some. I took some informations on obviously ancient Egypt. There's in my book, I love trees. I've always loved trees, and during COVID I used to hug my tree at home. I have a big tree. I used to hug my tree because, like, the feeling you were all alone, and so I used to talk talk to my tree and hug my tree. I'm
Yeah.
not and yeah, so I tried to do some research. The tree in the major tree who has a big part in my book is the kapok tree. It's a giant tree in the rainforest of southern Mexico, and the Mayas believed it was it stood as a center of the earth. So I try to take some mythology and I do research, but all
Yeah.
the rest is my craziness. Yeah.
And and well, and trees in a lot of civilizations,
Yes,
they have a very deep meaning.
they have, and it's very interesting. There's this book. I can't remember his name now. He's German. and he wrote a book about trees, and it's amazing the connection trees have, and they basically speak to each other. They can protect each other. They can feed one of the dying tree. They're able to protect themselves from fire, from bacteria or viruses. And it's amazing. Would you would have said that 20 years ago? If I say something like that, people would have said she's completely crazy. But
Right.
there's a whole interaction with trees and nature, and I think nature is so important, because I always say, nature doesn't need us, but we need nature. So it's an important point.
Yeah. Where I live in Utah, I believe it still is the largest living organism is an aspen grove.
Yes.
Uh, and they're amazing. Like I can't plant them in my yard because they just grow and they take over your whole yard. But the going up to the forest is one of my favorite places. They're beautiful, especially in the fall when they're turning yellow. But they're all one tree. The entire forest is one organism. It's amazing.
No, it's yeah, and I'm very often in Switzerland, and I like to hike, and yeah, I just love nature. It's moments for me of peace where I can sort of de-stress, and when I'm not well, when I'm anxious, because I am sometimes anxious, I need that moment, with my with
Mhm.
my dog, and the moment of peace in nature. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there? Do you have a favorite place you've been in the world? It's like
Oh my God. Okay,
that's a,
so
that's a tough one.
how long do we have? So I went to Nepal 2 years
Mhm,
ago. I hiked the Annapurna to Torong La Pass, which is 5,600 meters. That was an amazing experience, because it was the first time I ever had a sleeping bag, a backpack, and no hot water. I slept in the lodge with no heat.
mhm,
It was cold, and we walked about 10 hours a day, more or less, with a guide. But that was an experience just out of this world. People, the kindness, the beauty of the mountains surrounding me, that was amazing.
mhm.
Otherwise, yeah, I've traveled a lot. I've been to many, many countries. Every place for me has a special. There's something special. But I must
Yeah.
say that Nepal was amazing. I also did the Kilimanjaro. Yeah, a year and a half ago. That was also wow, an experience. And Peru, the Amazon, and things like that. Yeah, and I like the beach and the sun and doing nothing also.
Yeah, that's great. I think there are a lot of
What's your
people.
favorite place?
I'm trying to think as well. I asked that question, and then I said, "Uh oh." Now she's if she asks me, I'm
Yes.
not going to know. Um, I think um, on Mount Fuji in Japan
Oh,
was
I've never been to
amazing.
Japan. I want to go there.
Yeah, that was really pretty. We were in Japan and we went on a camping trip up on. They have these lakes, and in fact, the lake we camped at is the lake on the picture of the 100 yen bill,
Hmm.
and you can see the mountain in the background. And then we went on some hikes in the forest, and it's yeah, it was amazing. Really cool place.
Japan must be. I wanted to go there. It was just COVID, so obviously it didn't happen. But that's one
Yeah,
of the places on my how do you say that, on my bucket list.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. Japan was amazing. We lived there for about a year.
Really? Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
do you speak Japanese?
I started learning, but a year wasn't long enough, so
Yeah,
I
enough.
don't speak very well. My son speaks fluently, and
Really?
he's actually back there right now for work.
Okay,
But
that's nice.
yeah, it was amazing. And I was when I was reading your bio and uh, about riding on a train, I was
Yeah,
thinking in Japan you could do that where the
I know.
trains are very nice and clean, but in the U.S. that you don't have the peaceful train
Stop.
rides.
We went. I had to go for an interview to New York, and I took the Amtrak. Amtrak.
Okay,
Yeah, it was nice.
it was
It was nice. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
is it that bad? Because I thought it was okay. It's not
The,
like
it,
in Switzerland. When I ride in Switzerland, the trains, you've got the scenery, the mountains, the
right.
cows, everything. But no, Amtrak was good.
Good. All right. Well, I've never been on Amtrak on the East Coast, so that's good to hear. It doesn't have a great reputation in the States
Really, it was
because
my first time, so
people, well, we tend to be car people, I guess,
yes,
in
I've
the
noticed.
US.
I've noticed. I've noticed.
Yeah, especially out west where I am, because everything is so far apart that you
Where
have to
are you? Where are you exactly?
in Utah.
Utah. Okay.
Yeah. So there public transportation is
You need a car.
very limited. Yeah,
Mm.
you have to have a car to get around here.
Mm.
But just kind of the way it is. Beautiful mountains out here too if you haven't been to the Utah mountains.
I'm planning actually. I've heard a lot about it, but no, I haven't been. No.
Yeah, and good skiing too
Do you
if you're
ski?
in skiing. I do a little bit,
Okay.
but I wouldn't say that I'm a skier, no.
Okay.
But that actually skiing in Japan was really fun too. We did go skiing when we were there. That was great. But so I guess back to your writing, since that's what it's supposed to be about. There's just so much.
I'm actually making an interview of you.
Hey, that's fine. Um,
Okay, let's go
so
back.
when you, I mean, since we're the Clean Library podcast, you know, when as you were writing for a young adult audience, a YA audience, how did you make the decision to keep it clean and appropriate, and what was your process there? Because there are some YA novels that I would say are not not clean at all. So
Okay, so what do you mean with clean exactly? What do you mean with clean?
well, that's a great question. Because everyone has a different definition. I think the most common when we say that, I think the most common answer we get is um, language, violence, and sex.
No,
Um,
there's no sex. It's a Swiss boarding school.
so was that just because of the story, just because of where it was, or was
Because
there?
I didn't obviously she's 13, 14-year old girl.
Yeah,
I didn't feel the necessity to put sex in or violence. There's enough in this world, you
right.
know.
Yeah,
And I didn't feel the necessity to do that. I just, I think today it's so complicated because you have to be so careful what you
right,
say, what you do, you have to, and I just wrote from what I lived more or less at the time in Switzerland in my boarding school. It's a private boarding school, and it's yeah, and I just wanted to bring joy and a message because I'm, as I said before, very much into nature and animals, and I didn't feel the necessity for anyone being killed. Or obviously there's drama and there is
right.
like danger, and um, uh, there's a there's a fish that I called sharkaboo. In the second book that is not very nice. He flies and he's got feathers. But
Mhm.
basically, no, I didn't want. I tried to. I like books. I like. I don't know if you know Alphonse Daudet. It's a French writer, or Charles Dickens, obviously Oliver Twist, but Miguel de Cervantes, Hans Christian Andersen, all these old novels. I'm old school, and I think it's so nice to dream. I think that today you have enough violence all over the place that you
Yeah,
don't automatically. I'm not condemning those who do it. It's fine with me, but I just think that it's for me it was not necessary. So there's no sex and no murders and no violence. No, no.
yeah, yeah. And I think there are times when, like what you said, she's 13, you know,
Well, I
but
mean,
you,
okay, 13-year-old girls today, are very,
right.
yeah, and compared to maybe 20 years ago, right?
Yeah,
But
very true.
I tried to keep her as a 13-year-old girl, although she's very intelligent. She's very awake. She has this capacity and ability to talk to nature. She understands nature. Nature talks to her, and she understands animals, and animals talk to her. She has traveled also a lot with her mom, who's not very often there. but she's still a 13-year-old girl. And I think, you grow up so fast. Why do you want to be an adult when you're 13-year-old?
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, you get old so fast. When you're 40, 50, you say, oh my God, I wish I would be 13 again, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I would tell my kids is
Don't,
you're an adult for long enough. You don't need to be one yet. you know?
no. And when I was in boarding school in Switzerland, there was this club where we could go out on Wednesday afternoons, right?
Hmm.
It's not a club; it's like where there was music, but you had to be 16, and then obviously I wasn't 16, and at 14 I looked like I was 12, and then there was like some friends who could forge your ID and put a fake,
Uh-huh.
that never worked. By the way, I tried it once, it never worked. So no, I think it's nice to stay. 13-year-old is a 13-year-old, and kids have this ability to dream, and I think it's important that they stay kids as long as possible,
Yeah. I
because
totally
becoming
agree.
adults sometimes isn't that nice.
Yeah. And I love the fact that they have a story where they can see a 13-year-old girl who has an imagination and is
Yeah,
just there's no pressure because she's just she's a 13-year-old girl and there's
yeah.
not trying to be anything different.
No, no, and she doesn't want to. And she goes through this crazy journey with her uncle Archibald, because I thought in my character I didn't well, I thought having an adult with her he's 50, but he's like big big brother, and he's crazy. He speaks to
Hmm.
plants. He has a podcast with music for his plants, and he has a vivid imagination. He knows about the prophecy, and he accompanies her everywhere on her trip. And
Hmm.
that was fun for me to do, because I thought it would be nice to have an adult with the heart and the spirit of a child.
Yeah.
And she's actually older than he is. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. An old soul, we'd
And
say.
also, yeah,
I love that. So is your book traditionally published? Do you have a publisher or did you independently publish it?
it was published by Pegasus in England.
Okay.
And the second one, I don't know. As I said, I'd like to write about 400 pages. I'm at 230, so there's a way to go. Quite
Hmm.
a bit, but I'm doing some other things in the meantime. So I'm sort of trying to jungle with everything. But we'll see for the second how that goes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and your experience with working with a publisher did you find that helpful? You-
Skip,
got it.
skip.
Fair,
Actually,
fair, fair.
today self-publishing is also a great possibility. It
Right.
is. So
Yeah, and it's it's interesting um, the the types of books that weren't being picked up by publishing companies that are now kind of coming back
mhm,
because of self-publishing.
mhm.
Uh, and I,
Which is a good thing.
yeah, I think so too.
Like in French, you would say la concurrence. There is a, how would you say that in English? No, I forgot. You see, that's the thing. I was brought up speaking, when I didn't remember one word in one language, I would put it in another language. Like there is like, there's not just now the editing houses. You also have another possibility to release a book, and I think that's good because the pressure is less. You can do it yourself if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it lowers the barrier to entry, which can maybe get some books that sneak through that aren't quite as good or high
I don't have.
quality.
I mean.
But I found that for the most part, a lot of the self-published books have been really good. They've been great stories.
Yes. But
Yeah,
I think that anyone who has the courage and the capacity to write a book, I think it's great. Not everybody's gonna become an author and sell millions and millions of books, but
right.
at the end of the day, it's achieving that, and it's not easy. You know,
Yeah,
it is not
I w-
easy.
I was very surprised when I started telling people that I was a writer and publishing, and uh, how
What
many
do
people
you think
said,
about publishing houses? What do you think about them?
I've gone straight uh, self-published. I haven't even tried.
Okay. And
Um,
why? Is there a reason?
Genre-wise, I jump all over the place. I write what I want.
Okay.
So I didn't. I just didn't want to have to deal with writing to what someone else wanted me to write and
Yeah.
how they wanted me to write.
I
So
understand. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I didn't even bother sending the query letters and stuff. I just went straight to self-publishing. But it's it's amazing how many people I've talked to who said, "Oh, I started a book once," or "I have a story I want to write," and I always say to them, "Well, then do it. If you want to write a book, do it." And, well, no, I can't. I can't. Yes, you can. You can do it. You just have to sit down and
Yeah,
do it. You have,
but I understand because there was so many times where I thought I was going to give up because
uh-huh.
I was reading my book and I said, Sylvia, really? I mean, look the way you write. I mean, look all the mistakes and look at what the hell are you doing? And
Yeah.
there are many times I thought of giving up, but I think giving up is not an issue. I mean, it's not possible. I think you have to go for it, and the result is the result, people, whatever, if you want to do something, I think you should go for it, really go for
Yeah.
it.
I 100% agree. And if you end up saying, "Oh, I don't feel like publishing it," at least you did it. You wrote the
Exactly.
story. You you accomplished it, and you
And you finish the book, which is not everybody is capable of doing that.
yeah, yeah, for sure. When is there anything that you know now that you wish you would have known when you started writing?
Anything. To have more patience with myself, not to go crazy. I like things to be done quickly.
Yeah.
I sometimes have no patience
Hmm.
with myself, and to accept my mistakes maybe and just say, okay, so yeah, look, just take a day off, and it will be okay. Yeah, not to be
Yeah.
so hard on myself. Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, that's great advice. And I think sometimes when you do that, that's when the creativity comes back and the imagination has room to flow. And
yeah. I don't know how it is with you, but I think that you cannot force creativity or imagination. It's there. There's like, wow, they have this moment, and the more you force yourself, and the less, for me personally, the less it works. If I start being proscrinating on things, and just saying, oh, I have to write absolutely, it's not going to work. that's
yeah.
that's me personally. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very similar. And I know that when I sit down to write, that it's going to just start flowing. So I have to make sure I have time to
when do you
actually
like
write.
when do you like to write? Are you a morning writer, late afternoon, or
Um, it doesn't really matter
no?
to me. Yeah, I'm working, I'm at home anyway, working from home. So whenever I kind of get the bug, whenever an idea hits me, I'll jump in. When I'm like really in the groove of writing, it can be an all day thing,
Okay.
and it's not until I hear the door open upstairs that my wife's home from work that I'm like, okay, it's time to stop.
Times and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, so I get into that flow. Have Is your book uh, an audiobook yet, or are you thinking about doing that?
Um, yes, that's one of the projects I have, but we are working on a documentary that has nothing to do with my book,
Hmm.
and that is something new as a producer that I jumped in, and also we also do have a podcast, so it's something I'd like to do. Yes, it's in the near future. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. So are you wanting to narrate it yourself, or are you looking to hire someone?
I don't know. I think maybe look for someone. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
a good question. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Could be maybe me for one of the characters. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, I
And
don't.
yeah, it's
Maybe
a
maybe that's someone else, but I would need to find someone with who I vibe, where I feel that the
right.
person has the voice, has the, gets it,
Yeah,
understands. Yeah, that would be important.
yeah, for sure. I mean, you want your characters to come to life the way you imagine them.
Yeah, especially the main characters like Ella and Uncle Archibald. I picture him with his mustache. He's Swiss, but he looks sort of very British, and he likes his glass of whiskey, and he's always very well dressed with his. I have this image in my head, and it would be important that the person who does him is him. Yeah, so
Right.
I don't know how to explain that, but yeah, and Ella is the same thing. This young girl. It would need to be someone who loves animal, who loves nature, who the whole thing. So, but I've been thinking about it, but this is in the many projects
Right.
I'm thinking about. Yeah.
So, do you want to tell us what your documentary is about?
Oh my God, the documentary. It's actually it has nothing to do with a children's story, or it's actually we've been working on this for now a year and something. Um, okay, to try and make a long story short, because it's a crazy story. It's about my family, and I found out that I was adopted, and someone a few years ago told me, Sylvia, wouldn't you want to know who your biological parents are? So I
Hmm.
said, yes, obviously. No, I said, sorry. I said, no, I'm not interested at all, because I wasn't interested, because I never had any trauma about that. For me, it
Yeah.
wasn't an issue. And so that person still went into research and found some details about my adoptive parents. And they are both deceased now. My mother was Swiss. My father was born in Czernowitz, Austria. And we
Hmm.
found out that they were both spies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's an amazing and crazy story. And so I've been asked do the narration on the documentary. We went into a lot of, not myself, because I'm an artist. I have no idea how to go into any CIA files or research, but my business partner and some other people have been doing that for over a year now. So this has been taking a lot of time. This is why I'm here in America. And yeah, and so we've discovered a lot of craziness about my adoptive parents, and I call them my parents because I was adopted. I was 2 days old, so for me, they're my
Hmm.
parents.
Right,
And
right.
so this is the subject. It's nothing to do with children. It has nothing to do with my books or young adults. But it's been quite a ride, yeah, to discover that.
Wow, yeah, that's a crazy story.
Oh, believe me, believe me, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And do you have
Now you think I'm completely crazy.
no, no. Are
No,
you to
we
the
have all the documentation, all the CIA files, all everything. I mean, it's crazy. It's from one day to another where I thought that my mother was a jet setter,
Mhm.
to finding out that she was actually a spy, and my father as well. It's yeah.
Yeah. So when you got all these files, were they all redacted with all these black lines marked
Yes,
out and
yes. It's
everything?
the title will have something like that, and actually, the first time this person came back to me and said, Sylvia, there are some files, but we found something. I was obviously curious, and I had to send my passport, and I'll go through forget all the details, and to prove I was the daughter. And when I received the classified files, we found out there were telegrams at the time, right? Second
Right.
World War, and I just thought it was not possible, and I just thought, this is crazy. It's not my mother. And I closed the door.
Hmm.
And I left it closed for about 3 years. And then she passed away. And then the story goes on for, yeah, I found some more information, some letters, some documents, and it started like that. Yeah.
So they were active during the war.
Yes. Yes. My mother left Switzerland, 18-year-old. She was 18-year-old for America. She loved America. Yeah. She
Uh-huh.
was Swiss. My father was Jewish from Czernowitz, and he was an allied for an agent for the Allied, yeah, for the Allies, yeah. And there's much more. It's too long. I mean, but so yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now. It took me a lot of time to accept to do that, because
Yeah.
I didn't want to. They wanted me to be in the documentary, and I didn't want to, because it's not for me. It wasn't my story. It's my parents' story,
Right.
and that's why I'm doing it, because I found out that my mother is an amazing woman, and I'm I someone I didn't know, and I'm doing that for her, but I
Yeah.
have been obliged by my producer to be in the documentary. So I said I only want silhouette. I don't want to appear too much. You see my back and my hair and whatever,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's been quite a ride emotionally also, obviously. And yeah, and on our podcast we interviewed also 2 days ago the daughter of a KGB spy. It's quite a big story here in America, and she was on the podcast, and so it was interesting to discuss with her about that. Yeah, the feeling of weirdness and of not knowing really who you are, and yeah.
Right. Right.
Why are we talking about this? From Leslie Planet to Ella. So yeah, so that's
It's fascinating. Maybe one day you'll end up writing a spy thriller.
well, you can have, if you want to listen to a podcast, it's called Stories, Controversy, and Band-Aids. And you can listen if you're interested. You can, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Let's check it out for sure. Yeah. That's very cool.
Our episodes are as much about the author as they are about the books. So the whole thing is part of your journey and part of your story, and we love
Yeah,
it. We love it all.
yeah. I
So,
didn't think.
so
Yeah,
thank you for sharing.
I prepared myself for Lester's Planet and Ella Green. I didn't prepare myself for my documentary and the spy thing. But hey, why not?
That's right. Very cool. Well, so with people can find you there on that podcast. Where
Yes.
else? Where else can they go to find your books?
Well, my books is under sylviamariag.com. And for my books, you can find them on Amazon. I'm also a singer. You can find me as Sylvia G on Spotify. I have a few albums there.
Cool.
Yeah, and I also do photos and different things. So you can find that on my website. Yeah.
So, did you release your books in multiple languages?
No, you know what? My mother tongue actually is German and
Uh-huh.
French. I was brought up in a melting pot with my mother who spoke 6, 7 languages. So I
Yeah.
was brought up like that. But I always like my lyrics when I write them, and my books. English has always been for me the only way for me to write and to write and my feelings and my emotions. I don't know why I can't do it in French. There's no way I can do it in German or in
Interesting.
Italian or in Spanish. But in English, it's always been English. Yeah, except my accent, but that's like that.
No, that's very interesting. That
Yeah,
English would be kind of your artistic language, even though it
yeah,
wasn't your primary language.
yeah, it's my artistic. That when I started writing Lester's Planet, oh, actually, Lester was translated in German.
Mhm.
But when I wrote, it came automatically to write in English. I would have never written the book in French or in any other language. No, no.
Hmm.
Don't ask me why. It's like that.
Yeah, but I'd find that's just fascinating to me. I think that's a really cool thing. Yeah, I probably would have guessed French as a more artistic language. Just
Well, no, French is
because,
very romantic, like Italian.
right, right, right.
Italian is ciao bella, come vai? It's like
Yeah,
this. German is very, oh my God, no, German is like this, and it's very
right,
German.
right.
French is very romantic, and I actually only started reading. I always read in English,
Hmm.
rarely in German. And I started reading a book in French lately that a friend of mine gave me. But otherwise, I just always read in English, and I actually almost I think in English and in French, but I read in English. Yeah.
Cool. That speak Spanish, and that the way I keep my Spanish up is by reading in always having at least one book in Spanish that I'm reading
Yeah,
along with English books
it
because
helps. Yeah, because
yeah,
you forget if you don't practice.
right.
Uh,
Because
it,
I don't have the opportunity to practice or speak it a lot. So
Mhm.
that way I keep my brain,
Yeah.
keep it there. But cool. Well, we need to get back to your two truths and a lie and see if we can guess. I think we can knock at least one of them off the list.
Yes, I gave it away.
So number one, I am working on a documentary. Number two, I don't like the beach. And number three, I prefer tea over coffee.
Mhm.
So Brock, we'll let you guess first.
All right, so yeah, we'll rule out the documentary one. The other two are a bit
Okay.
tricky as I think about how much you've traveled all around the world and the different places you've been. Certainly, a lot of beaches in several of those places. Um, but I think I'm going to go with. Now, I don't know Swiss people well, but I do think I've heard or recognized that there's certainly a love of coffee there more than I hear about tea. So I'm going to say that the lie is that you prefer tea over coffee.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
There was
Marcus, yeah.
one passing mention when we were talking about your travels where you mentioned the beach, but I'd have to agree with Brock. I think I prefer tea over coffee is the lie. So, which we both guessed the
So,
same thing. So,
yeah, no, you're
are we right?
yeah, you're right. I when I say coffee, I love cappuccino. I like to
Okay.
drink a
Uh,
cappuccino.
Like
That's
Italian style?
Italian style. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, coffee over tea.
All right. Well, then we're still at the same score since
we
we
tied.
tied
Yeah.
this one. Yeah. All right. Well, Sylvia, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad you were in the States, so the time difference worked out for us. And
Perfect. Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Very nice. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
yeah.
And talking about everything else about my book was not planned, but hey, you went that way.
Well, everyone out there listening, stay tuned for when the documentary comes out, but go and check out the books in the meantime, and we'll post the link
And the
to
podcast, and the podcast.
and the podcast. Yes, so check them out, support her work, and the best way to help spread the word is to share the podcast, tell your friends about it, and let them know that this is a place where they can come to meet new authors and find new books. And so thank you everyone for watching or listening, and we will catch you next time on the Clean Library Podcast.